Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. All right, what do you think when you hear the word forgiveness? It is an open question. It is not hypothetical. I invite you to jump in. Beautiful. Letting go. Mm.
Following on that thought, it's freedom of lifting a burden off yourself. It's actually a good stroke of good health. You carry around all the burden. But if I could say one more thing
Mm-hmm.
on another subject, I was thinking early on, as opposed to the beginning,
Mm-hmm.
sad case. Maybe it's inappropriate, but I think it's really all that mess out of my mind. It's been there. I'm 80 years old, and it's been there since, almost that long. And I've studied it in college and everything else. And there's been very little positivity. But I do remember, Jimmy Carter insisted on getting an agreement. And Egypt, think of the relationship that Egypt had with the Jews over the last 3,000 years. Here, Anwar Sadat gave up himself and made peace.
And he was one of the ones.
It was a beautiful thing, but he paid the cost. The radicals in his country killed him. But I think his example is one that we all need to follow, and I wish other people recognize it rather than.
Yes.
I find forgiveness not an easy thing to do. I also feel like it's a work in progress because I kind of think I forgive people and then I come back on it and don't forgive them and then I try to start over again. I have a very hard time with
Mm.
forgiveness. I know you support it, but it's also not all that easy, especially when you think a lot of times that you're right, but then you are not.
And historically, it bears out in the very appropriate example, whether it's governments or individuals or families. I believe it was Yoko Ono in one of those quotes that said, "Take your time. It isn't easy." She said it much better than that, but you've mentioned a lot of things. Some I thought, and some I touch on, some I did not, and that's why I want to hear from you, and I appreciate that. This may be the most personal message I could possibly address from the pulpit. No matter where I turned in preparation and to whom I spoke, I found the conversations sensitive. I found the demands of forgiveness to challenge the strongest hearts and the most loving spirits. I'm not referring to the great personalities we esteem throughout history, and we heard from some of them, and that is very important. But I am speaking of ordinary people in my life, of personal experiences that have knocked myself or others to our knees. In a Unitarian Universalist church several years ago, I heard a sermon on witnessing. Rare subject, no doubt. It was delivered by someone many of us in this room know and love. In fact, she may have presented it here, I'm not sure. Liz was an animal behavior specialist. One day, she said, she witnessed someone lose her temper and kick her own pet. Now you can imagine Liz was quite disturbed by this. It didn't help, she said, that she was challenged by the teens who were with her on this church outing when this occurred. What to do? How to witness? Have you ever found yourself in such a situation? Something wrong. You witness. I spoke with one of the church members afterward who heard this message, and she told me of her difficulty. Her new job, working as a cashier in a gun shop, places her with customers who frequently tell racist jokes and bigoted comments. She is troubled and uncomfortable. I began to think about the way I often handle things. It seems as though too often I become defensive at the ignorance and thoughtlessness of others. I have African American nephews. I take callous insults personally. I tend to speak up more freely when I witness these offenses, as we are called to do. But I think sometimes in my desire to help on behalf of a loved one or a persecuted group, what I really end up doing is serving my own interests. I feed the wrong wolf. I act out of emotional discomfort and it stammers me. I don't think our feelings or intentions are unjustified. I just think our sense of outrage can inhibit us from being effective because it alienates us from the other party. We take the burden on ourselves and forget who really owns the problem. I think we have every right and obligation to speak up for justice, to bear witness to our conscience and our values and our principles. But I have to remind myself there's a difference between a sense of justice and a sense of pride. I picked these up. Whose interest am I serving when I choose to act? I picked these up when I was in seminary. They are journals written by Hugh Prather. And he wrote in one of his little books called Notes on Love and Courage. He wrote this: friends eventually forgive and come back together because people need people more than they need pride. I refer to these books for a refresher course quite often on some of the old values: love, courage, gentleness, honesty. I get it backward when I forget that correcting others is supposed to be offering them a gift, not stroking my ego. And offering a gift can best be done not with clenched fists or teeth, but open arms. And the flip side to this is that, odd as it seems, forgiving others is offering ourselves a gift. My sister is a very caring person. This is going to be difficult. When her husband died, way too young, of a brain tumor, Vicki was left to raise 2 preteen children on her own. Not only did she do this with selfless devotion, but she opened her home to foster children and took in dozens and eventually adopted 4 of them. Many years ago, one of those daughters moved out on her own at the age of 18. Soon after, she was murdered. Vicky was devastated. Throughout the trial, she harbored hatred and contempt for the perpetrator, who also killed his own wife and his 5-year-old daughter. Vicky prayed the jury would sentence him to die. He had no moral conscience, no remorse. Now, Vicky is a devout, practicing Christian. Her caring friends would speak with her, encourage her. Sometimes one would say, "But you must come to a point of forgiving him." They meant well. She didn't care. And then, oh, so slowly and painstakingly over the years, this very emotional sister of mine came to the realization that forgiveness is not an emotion. Forgiveness is not an offering to the one who wronged us. Forgiveness is a spiritual exercise of letting go. For Vicky, it became an act of obedience to God. Forgiveness is a crossroad on the path to enlightenment, a gift to ourselves. I read somewhere, the best way to get even is to forgive. I really like that. I know another friend who suffered terrible acts of violence, a former husband who was later convicted of violence toward children, who kidnapped her own child and tried to disappear to Mexico forever. This friend's offering to me in her eventual release: the unforgivable sin is to not forgive. I could never give advice to someone like that. I could never hope to speak for them, but I can learn a ton from someone like that. What these dear loving people discovered is that prayer of Jesus is a simple act of faith and promise. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Anwar Sadat. In the power to change yourself is the power to change the world around you. For some, forgiving ourselves is the hardest of all that was mentioned. The wolves are battling inside of us. On one side is a constant voice, for me at least, of self-criticism and doubt. On the other side of the personal battle is a sense of self-entitlement, inflated ego, self-loathing versus arrogance. Whether you are atheist, Christian, Buddhist, or Unitarian Universalist, we must fight our battles, live our values, stand on ground, but make sure it's a hill worth dying on. Just this week, a man here in Palatka, 56 years old, throws his life away. Over what? A road rage incident, we are told. Keith Shawless was arrested Thursday for allegedly shooting a woman in the stomach. She is now in critical condition. Both of them perhaps were fueled by anger, or she was an innocent victim to this man's life of illusion and grandiosity. The prayer of Jesus on the cross, Spirit of life, forgive them. They don't know what they do. Terry Dobson shares this true account. I close with it. And it's a little bit lighter, I hope. But a very big message. The train clanked and rattled through Tokyo. At one station, the doors opened and a man staggered into our car. He was big, drunk, and dirty. Screaming, he swung at a woman holding a baby. It was a miracle she was unharmed. The train lurched ahead, the passengers frozen with fear. I stood up. I was young then and in pretty good shape. I'd been putting in Aikido training for the past 3 years. I thought I was tough. Trouble was, as students of the martial art Aikido, we were not allowed to fight. Aikido, my teacher said, is the art of reconciliation. Whoever has the mind to fight has broken his connection with the universe. If you try to dominate people, my teacher said, you are already defeated. We study how to resolve conflict, not how to start it. Now, it is a martial art. And the literal meaning of Aikido is way of adapting the spirit. This is it, I said to myself, getting to my feet. People are in danger, and if I don't do something, they will probably get hurt. Seeing me stand up, the drunk recognized a chance to focus his rage. Aha, he roared, a foreigner. You need a lesson in Japanese manners. I held on to the commuter strap and gave him a look of disgust. I wanted him mad so that he would start it. So I pursed my lips and blew him a kiss. A second before he could move, someone shouted, "Hey!" I remember the strangely joyous, lilting quality of it. Hey! A little old Japanese man, well into his 70s, sitting there in his kimono. He took no notice of me, but beamed delightedly at the laborer, as though he had a most important secret to share. "Come here," the old man said to the drunk. "Come here and talk with me." He waved his hand. The big man planted his feet belligerently in front of the old gentleman and roared above the clacking wheels, "Why the hell should I talk with you?" The old man continued to beam at the laborer. "What you been drinking?" he asked, his eyes sparkling with interest. "I've been drinking sake, and it's none of your business." "Okay, that's wonderful," the old man said. "I love sake too. Every night, me and my wife, she's 76, you know, we warm up a little bottle of sake and take it out into the garden, and we sit on an old wooden bench. We watch the sun go down, and we look to see how our persimmon tree is doing. My great-grandfather planted that tree. It is gratifying to watch when we take our sake and go out to enjoy the evening, even when it rains." He looked up, eyes twinkling. As he struggled to follow the old man's conversation, the drunk's face began to soften. His fists slowly unclenched. "Yeah," he said, "I love persimmons too. His voice trailed off. Yes, said the old man, smiling, and I'm sure you have a wonderful wife. No, my wife died. Gently swaying with the motion of the train, the man began to cry. I don't got no wife. I don't got no home. I don't got no job. I'm so ashamed of myself. Tears rolled down his cheeks. A spasm of despair rippled through his body. I, the man telling the story, suddenly felt dirtier than he was. The train arrived at my stop. As the doors opened, I heard the old man say, My, that's a difficult predicament. Sit down here and tell me about it. I turned for one last look. The laborer was on the seat, his head in the old man's lap. The old man was softly stroking the filthy, matted hair. What I had wanted to do with muscle had been accomplished with kind words. I had just seen Aikido tried in combat, and the essence of it was love. I would have to practice the art with an entirely different spirit. It would be a long time before I could speak about the resolution of conflict. To forgive is to set the prisoner free and then discover the prisoner was you.